Hi everybody, my name is Tom Chesterton. I'm Managing Director of Tonic. We're a brand communications business. This is the first Google Hangout that we're using for our Tonic On series. We had a little technical hitch in our first one, so I'm just re-recording this so that you can see the content we went through without the little bit of a hiccup that we had at the start. So just want to say thanks very much for those people who did hang out with us a short while ago. The hopefully the sound is going to be okay on this one. So basically, this is a Hangout on air, and what does that mean? Well, fundamentally, we are streaming straight to YouTube, so it's a live event, and it's also streaming straight to our blog site, which is tonicthinking.com. And what we're trying to do with this, I guess, is to bring some of our thinking to a broader audience, so that you can have a useful learning lunchtime, if you like. The intention is that we have a series of these. Some of them will be about things that we're thinking about. Some of them will be around the future of communications and brand as we see it. Some will simply be thought leaders looking at how their area of specialty might help recruiters in more general terms. So hopefully you'll have a good opportunity to find out some new stuff, hopefully have some good conversation, and have an opportunity to learn some new stuff. So the hashtag for this event was hashtag TonicOn2. The presentation I'm about to go through is a rerun of a presentation we gave at the firm in May with some extension on that to provide some but not all of the answers. We're still considering what the right things to do here are, so we welcome your thoughts and your input in terms of that dialogue. So hope you enjoy the slides. And I will just now run through those and see if you have any thoughts. Get in touch and let us know. So hopefully now what you can see is how not to build your brand. So the point about this presentation is that if I think about my career from a marketing perspective, there's an awful lot of hyperbole that people talk about, and fundamentally the language of our industry is well ingrained almost. We talk about an audience we're trying to penetrate. We talk about building talent pipelines or talent pools. We talk about the message that we're going to get out there. We talk about how we might target a particular audience. We might talk about how we might go about engaging those people. We talk about how we might execute on some creative. We talk about the impact we're going to have. We talk about gaining followers and getting likes. Fundamentally, the language of failure, the language that we all use as a lingua franca for I've got something to tell you whether you like it or not. It's not landing with people because it assumes that people give a monkeys about your brand. The truth is that people really don't care about what you've got to say. They're living their own lives quite happily, and they're living their life on their time rather than our time. If I think back to when I came out of university, people would still talk about the TV series that they were just watching. This is only a few years back. But now we might watch an entire TV season of Breaking Bad or Wired or Mad Men in one night. So the competition is not who saw it, but who's seen the most of a particular season. We live in a world where people are pissed off when they get a phone call from somebody. People don't have enough time to talk to people randomly. When you think about it in really basic terms, this is a good thing. Somebody wants to talk to you. Somebody wants to have a conversation, and you're annoyed that they've got in touch with you, wasting your time. We live in a world where there's lots of people competing for our attention. We live in a world where people are trying to grab a tiny slice of our attention to do something, whether that's sell something, get something. And I think all of us emotionally are kicking back against that. So this 5,000 number is quite interesting. It's the number of ad messages we each see every single day of our lives. An incredible number of messages, and I bet you most of the time they don't land with you. I know that Coca-Cola, for example, their marketing plan is that you're never further than a few meters from their marketing. So different organizations have different ways of dealing with this, but there's a lot of content that we're given, and how do we distinguish between that? 120 is the average number of emails that each of us receives every day. I know I get way more than that. I'm assuming that there are others who are in a similar boat as well. The way I deal with that is by screening mercilessly the emails that arrive in my inbox. Some get read straight away, some go into later boxes, some go into next week. I deal with them when I can. 5,000 is the number of text messages that are sent every minute in the UK. Hardly surprising if I think about, again, the number of people who text me every day anyway. 90% is quite an interesting number. So this really refers to the number of people who are not looking for a job from any particular group at any given point, which leaves us with 10% of active job seekers. Now, I suppose the logical question to ask is, why are they job seeking? Why are they thinking about their next step in their career? Is it because they're not good at their job? Is it because they're starting afresh? Is it because they are they've been working with a business that has unfortunately shut down? The 90%, however, are people who are left over, the people who are happy and content and good at their jobs. And I guess my logical question would be that, if we are going to target that 90% of people, or even that 100% of people, rather than just the 10%, how might we do that? And the difficulty we have is that what we're doing as recruiters or talent acquirers, or as people in charge of bringing on the next level of talent, is not only are we doing something really exciting, but we're also doing something that's incredibly incidental. It's not vital to people, because there are things that get in the way. Great food, family, doing exciting stuff, playing with your kids, competing in sporting events, cultural events, war, peace, religion, just incredible, dirty, nasty, amazing life in all of its amazing qualities. That all gets in the way. There's this amazing quote from Bruce McCall, who's the global chief marketing officer for Mars. He says that most of us go through life finding it hard enough to build good relationships with the real people in our life, let alone the brands we buy. The relationships that we have with brands are shallow in comparison to the relationships that we have with other humans. We really want to think that our brand is in love with the people that we're trying to communicate with, and vice versa. The people that we're trying to communicate with are completely monogamous to us. The reality is it's not like that at all. The relationship that Coke have, again, with their consumers, and I'm not really sure why I'm picking on Coke in this context, but 70% of people who drink Coke also drink Pepsi. So there's no real brand loyalty there. Your consumers are other people's consumers that you're just borrowing. Brand does not mean you have a relationship. People who buy your brand do not necessarily think you're great. And just because they're willing to give their attention to other people doesn't mean they're willing to give it to your brand in its own right. And the reason for that is that people do not build relationships with themselves and businesses. They build relationships with other people. Now, that could be the people who represent you at a careers fair. It could be the people that somebody meets in the pub of an evening. But the relationship is set up between the person you want to hire and somebody else, not the business and the brand of the business. Your personal relationships are absolutely massively important that go towards building the way that people live their lives better. The way that you can help people to have a better way of living, a better career, a better life in general, is really important in terms of making that connection with the individuals you're trying to affect the behavior of. And that's because they inform the way that people feel about your brand. It changes the way that the individuals that you're trying to communicate with feel about you as an organization. And I've been in many, many meetings when people have said to me, look, we really struggle to attract great people, but when they meet our team, it's easy. And that's really the payoff line for that, is that, if you're in a situation where when people meet your team, they think you're fantastic and they really understand the breadth of your business or the integrity that the organization has, but you're not getting that across from a corporate perspective, perhaps that's because you're not allowing your people to have that real level of human contact. Relationships are human. And we should do what Albert Einstein suggests, which is not to try and be a man of success, but to strive to be a man of value. We should try and add value to people's lives. Push marketing is absolutely dead as a dodo. For that reason, what we need is a way of communicating with people that allows people to engage. So I'm going to pick on the poor old banner ad as the lowest common denominator of advertising. So you're much more likely to complete Navy SEAL training than click a banner ad. You're more likely to get a full house while playing poker than click on a banner ad. You're served 1,700 banner ads a month. How many of those can you remember? You're more likely to birth twins than click a banner ad. You're more likely to get into Massachusetts Institute of Technology than click a banner ad. You are more likely to survive a plane crash than click on a banner ad. All of these things are incredible statistics, particularly if you're a man and it's you that's going to get pregnant with those twins. So think about how we do build those relationships. Social networks and mobile devices have become the way that we think about building relationships almost as a default now. They're the gateway drugs to awareness. So we looked at this research that comes from Social Med, I think, and what they did is over a couple of years looked at the number of people who are following social brands or companies on social. So you can see the growth there from 16% in 2010 to 33% in 2012. And as a marketer, you think, great, fantastic, until you start digging into the reasons why people are following that brand. For most people, it's about getting something for nothing, a sale or a discount or a coupon. Some people do like product or the ideas that organization is generating, but for 47% of people, they do not know why they're following that brand. You think about that, 47% of the people who are following you don't know why. Incredible. And that's because as marketeers, as employment marketeers, we use social networks and mobile devices to try and build relationships, but people are using them for lightweight, quick consumption. And if we're going to build great conversations, we need a better marketing philosophy. Yelling really doesn't work. Hard selling doesn't work. So what we're trying to do now is grab people's attention. But what we should be trying to do is grab their interest. So I'm a big fan of this guy, Jay Baer, who's a bit of a social guru in the US. He's written a book called Utility, Y-O-Utility. He talks about this movement from front of mind marketing to friend of mind awareness. And I think this is absolutely spot on the money. So he says friend of mind awareness is predicated on the fact that companies are competing against real people for the attention of other real people. To succeed, your prospective customers must consider you a friend. And if, like their friends, you provide them real value rather than simply offering a series of coupons or come-ons, I guess in the world of employment marketing, that would be the job, they will reward your company with loyalty and advocacy the same way as we reward our friends. So how do you do that? First of all, you need to be human. I guess we've all received emails like this, so please do not reply to this email as the mailbox doesn't accept incoming messages. That makes me feel so special. You need to be human, but you also need to be helpful. You need to commit random acts of usefulness. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some examples for some of these things I'm going to talk about now. So being helpful, there's a couple of really great things. So first of all, Hilton Suggests. I've spoken at events before about. It's a virtual concierge service that's operated by Hilton. Now, it began with 6 people in a room who were just trying to be helpful. What they don't do is they don't talk about hotel rooms. They don't talk about accommodation that Hilton offers, although they're affiliated. What they try and do is help people who are in need. So this example on screen now is an example of a guy called Danny who's on holiday, and he's looking for things to do in northern Italy. And Hilton really started a conversation with him around what it's like to go to Florence or to Como or to George Clooney's house on Garda. And that begins that conversation. Of course, everybody who's following Danny or Hilton gets to see this conversation and feels better about Hilton in its own right. So what they're doing is they're using their local knowledge to support people. You can be more specific though. So this is a billboard in Lima, the capital of Peru, and it's produced by the engineering school of the university in Lima. Now, I don't know what you know about Lima. Peru is a a country, but it's a very dry, arid environment. All the water that blows off the Pacific goes over Peru, rises over the Andes and lands on Brazil, which is why there's a rainforest there. So lots of moisture in the air, but none on the ground, which presents a problem for local populations. So what the University of Lima did was produce a billboard that actually condenses water out of the atmosphere to produce fresh drinking water for the local population. So what they're doing is providing a service to the local population, but at the same time also demonstrating their capability from an engineering perspective. So if you see this, not only does it get a lot of coverage because it's just doing something good, but they're also showing that they're a great school to go to, and you get to do interesting projects when you're there. So making themselves a more attractive proposition. So you do need to be valuable, and being valuable is critical, but it's also driven by content. It's the thing that lubricates those relationships. And I kind of thinking about this, I was thinking about, nobody really forgets a great teacher. Nobody forgets those people who've really done something amazing to add value to their lives. I want to give you some examples of that. So Lowe's are a DIY chain in the US. They're kind of like a B&Q or a Homebase. If you look up Lowe's Vines, the 6-second video Vine on Google, you'll find examples of what they've done. So they're obviously trying to grab share of mind with the people who could go to other DIY chains, but they do that by just sharing really easy household fixes, like how to get the label off the bottom of a cup, how to stop your knives from being rusty, how to organize your utility cupboard, how to stop rodents eating your flowers, which is probably quite a local problem for them. But at the same time, they're front of mind for people when they are considering which shop to go to, because they've become their friend, because they've helped them out. And similarly, the ad that Barclays are running at the moment to promote the fact that they're offering free in-branch technological advice for people who need it with their Digital Eagle campaign. If you go to barclays.co.uk/Digital Eagle, you'll be able to find out more about that. But you can go into Barclays and find out how to use the internet or how to send an email if you don't know how to do that already. Again, trying to be helpful and teach people something. You need to be personal while you're doing that. So Kathy Savitt, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Yahoo, has a really interesting view. She says that she's an unconventional Chief Marketing Officer and views herself as the Chief Customer Officer, really having that real tough, tight focus on the customer as being the most important. Now, I would convert that and think about how do we give something that will stick with people. And Maya Angelou came up with this quote and nails it. I think she absolutely gets the nail on the head. She says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did to them, but people will never forget how you made them feel." It's that emotional output. And if we're going to get that emotional output to be exactly right, we need to be not afraid to segment the people, the group that we're trying to communicate with. We need to focus our message in a way that's individualized for each of those communities that we're trying to serve. An engineer needs to know a different thing to an IT person, to a chief exec. But if we're a good business, then we should be able to adapt our messaging to that group. And that begins by beginning with an effort to understand the individual, the group that you're trying to talk to, understand what motivates them, what are their preferences, what are their behaviors, how do they engage with you. And I think the critical thing to this is it's kind of like if you think about front of mind awareness, it's kind of like going into a party and shouting and hoping that people will listen to you. Whereas in the reality, people would much rather that you listen to what they had to say and then join in the conversation in a meaningful way. Have a view, of course, take a position and make people feel something, have that emotional connection, but don't be blind to the fact that people's needs change. People do change, and we should reflect that as well. We can't imagine that because we knew something 2 or 3 years ago or even 2 or 3 months ago, that perspective is the same and people want the same things from us. So I want to leave you with 5 things that we think are really important to do. So the first thing is understand what your community needs to know. Don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid to listen first. Don't be afraid to invest there, because that's actually going to pay back for you much more than going into a room and shouting as loudly as you can. Firstly, think about how you could help them. Think about what you could do to support them, and then tell people where they can find that help. So think about what Barclays are doing and what Lowe's are doing. They're not just doing stuff and hoping that people will find it. They're actively promoting it. So it's kind of like marketing your marketing. The other thing is that this is not a project. This is really a process. This is not about just about short-term gain. This is direct sourcing as a long-term output. So of course there are immediate benefits, but at the same time, you need to be able to commit to the long term. And because you're doing that, you need to measure everything. You need to know where that ROI is hitting you, and when it's actually going to make the difference to the business that you're serving. So who could you help? Of course, there are all sorts of people. You could help engineers or IT guys or grads or HR people looking at brand and reputation, or chief execs wanting to implement a culture change program. I bet in your context, you could think of people that you need to be able to help to change the way that they feel about you as an organization. And the last word almost is that, if I love this cartoon. I think this is amazing. It really sums up where most people are. It's almost like an evolution of employment marketing. So, I think maybe it was fair to say that most organizations are kind of in that broadcast and like grab area. So either telling people how awesome people are and hoping that people will like them so they can tell them how awesome they are again, or broadcasting stuff that says that they are awesome and repeating until people either switch off or believe them. What I would really love for people to get to is that place where we're really helping other people to become more awesome and having reflected glory as a result of that. So this is how you can get hold of us. Tonicagency.com is our URL. I'd also have a look at our blog site, which is tonicthinking.com, tonictweeting.com. Sorry, Tonic Tweeting on Twitter is our handle there, so you can follow us there if you need to. and contact details for all of us. So I am hopeful that you've really enjoyed that. Hopefully it's been helpful. Tonic on 2 is going to stay as a hashtag we'll monitor for a week or so on Twitter and on G+. We'd value your input and value your conversation, your discussion. Next TonicOn is probably going to be in a couple of weeks' time. We're really looking forward to welcoming a guest then. And just really wanted to say thanks again for listening to us, listening to just this thinking, and we'd value your input into that. So bye guys, and see you next time.